right, welcome y'all to the lunch hour by KUAF, presented by George's Majestic. I'm excited. We have my boy Ethan here today, and we have old man Saxon, and we have Jeffro from Odd Soul Pizza. What are some of the things that you guys got coming up?
I have a goal this year to get a sync off of my song and my beat. That's all I'm working on. That's all I care about. I have projects, blah 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 blah. Like I don't know where they're at yet.
Okay, I wanted to start with this. That's right. I feel like there's an intersection with both of y'all and traveling. And I mentioned this before, but I asked my homeboy. We had a mutual friend named Max, and he told me that I should ask you about your travels.
Yeah.
And so I want to start with there, and then I'm gonna come back in your travels as well.
All right. That's a really open-ended
Yeah.
question. I grew up on a farm in Benton County in the 80s when Benton County was a less glamorous place to be from. And went to school all through the 90s, finished college in the early 2000s, and just decided I should do something different. My idea had been to get a master's degree, and I got about 3 months in and remembered how much I hated being a student.
Oh, wow.
So,
you went to UK and you were getting your master's degree in the UK?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got a degree in creative writing from here in Fayetteville. At the
Oh,
UVA.
wow.
So I was going to study more and realized that that formal education just wasn't what I was after. So I managed to get my tuition money back, and I got on a bus with a bunch of Australians and just went around Europe for a while. Wow. And I did that for a few months till I ran out of money. And I came back and went back to my old job selling tractor parts at John Deere. And when I got bored of it again, I went back to Europe and continued backpacking around, just kind of hitting some spots that I wanted to see.
How are you making money then?
I wasn't.
Okay.
It didn't last. So somebody a while back made a comment that my dad's goatee has turned fully white, and they said, this is your fault, right? I said, I don't know what you mean. Like, all I ever did was go to Europe and run out of money a few times. Like, I hardly gave him anything to stress about. So I went around, and just like my last stop after my second tour, I was in Edinburgh, Scotland. I was supposed to be there for like 36 hours, and then I was going to visit some friends in Glasgow, and then I was flying home. And I'd seen Europe, I'd done the thing, and I was coming back, and I was going to figure out how to get settled in and become an adult here.
Yeah.
And it was cold and rainy because it was Scotland, and I went into a museum because it was dry inside. And this really cute girl asked if I wanted to fill out a survey. And I'm like, yeah, sure, fine. We had drinks that night. We stayed in touch, and we were married 9 months later.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Attaboy.
Well, so that's why I lived in Scotland for 4 years.
Oh.
We are no longer married. I was coming apart at the seams. Like I said, I'm very rooted here. Like, this is where my family is from. This is where I function well. And it was cool to be abroad for a bit.
4 years is longer than
Yeah.
That's a long time.
A bit's like 2 weeks.
Right. And I had trouble finding work. In the UK, there are two kinds of Americans. There are those who have been like headhunted for some sort of job,
Yeah.
or the ones that work at Starbucks.
Oh, wow.
And I was very much in the latter
Yeah.
crowd. I never worked at Starbucks. I worked at a pub, and I worked as a photographer. Just did some stuff, but never anything I was going to make a career out of and raise family. And I kind of came apart at the seams. It took 3 months to get home, like to get things taken care of, packed up and as resolved as I could, and then I came home in July of 11.
You feel like your travels kind of helped you find yourself and find your way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I certainly got the better education
Just travel.
for what I needed than I went in pursuit of.
Why didn't you use your creative writing degree to make
I
a
was
bunch?
thinking
Just
about
make
that
$1 million
too.
and just go home.
I'm trying. Somewhere I've got, if not the Great American Novel, like the Great American Collection of Short Stories. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
It's perpetually working on it.
All right, I'm shooting it back your way.
So yeah, just the intersectionality of what we're talking about too, right? Like one day I got sick of where I was living, and I packed all my stuff up and I moved to LA, right? And it's a little different for right? Like, I think for you, if I'm not mistaken, you're saying you kind of just went out, there was nothing, right? There was just like, I'm just going to do whatever, right?
Yep.
And for me, there was a concerted effort to try to make it as a rapper, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of like backpacking or just going around and doing stuff wasn't a thing because I'm trying to write music, right? And I had the little jobs. I was a video game tester for 2 years. It's the worst job ever. I was like, parking lot attendant in LA. I was for the tax season. I dressed up in like a Statue of Liberty.
You was the Statue of Liberty guy twisting it.
Yeah, and I was telling people, I was like, yeah, I do taxes. I don't do taxes.
You enable taxes to get done.
Yeah, I direct you towards the
some way.
taxes. Yeah. So I do taxes. That's real. I was a part of it.
Spin, man.
But then during all that time, like all these jobs are taking a lot longer a lot of time out of my ability to create. I ended up being homeless, living in the back of my car for 13 months. In those 13 months, I spent my time working at a restaurant and writing. Wrote. And in the time of like sleeping in your car and waking up, being a rapper, that like it forces you to be honest, right? You can't be writing raps in your car like, I be getting all the women, y'all. Like, I got Patron on me. It's like, no, I can't have Patron in my car. They'll arrest me. Like, so yeah, like forced me to get very honest, and I ended up writing an album about the time being homeless, right? And it blew up. People were like, wow, like this is really like touching. Like I'm in this position, I'm doing this, right? And so I'm just seeing the intersectionality of like, what happens when you just pick up and move, how much that can change your life, right?
When did you realize that's the path you wanted to take, and what made you realize that like music was what you wanted to do, or if it was just always a thing?
Really?
I can point at the patch of dirt that I wanted to own. And it's now off the side of Highway 612, and the rest of the farm is under a subdivision. Like it's gone.
Wow.
And that kind of left me without anything that I felt attached to. You know, the physical things that I was rooted to are kind of gone. It's far more emotional and nostalgic. And so it had to be something different. I worked at a brewery. I worked at Core Brewing in Springdale for a while, and I'm not much of a drinker, but I really fell in love with the craft of beer. And from my time in Scotland, I'm a big Scotch guy. And so the opportunity came to open a pub. Some friends said, hey, we got this idea. We want you involved. I'm like, yeah, actually, that sounds like a lot of fun. If we can have Scotch. Like if we can do this, I'm in. And it wasn't that we set out to have a restaurant. Like we just set out to sell some drinks, and the food just kind of followed as a natural progression. There's a lot of evolution that's going on in the Odd Soul.
Absolutely.
Like every 6 months, we're like, okay, this doesn't work. Let's add this in, or let's take this out. And let's try.
For me, when I first knew I wanted to make music was when I was in middle school, right? We had rap battles, and to this day, I don't know how I made money off of it, but like middle school kids were betting for us to battle, and I was like, where are y'all getting money? I don't think they understood like the idea of like a spread or anything. They were just like, here's $1. And so I ended up like coming home like with money as a middle schooler, right? And just think about that, like, oh, that's tight. Like, okay, I can do this. I started knowing like how much I love the like technicality of it when I was like 9 years old, writing down E40 lyrics, right, and having to press pause, rewind, and write down every single lyric. So I think from a young age, I knew that's what I wanted to do. Now you have the society, right? You have, hey, you got to go to college, you got to go get a job, right? The idea of the shit. Well, I was about to cuss. I was the first one to cuss, and I didn't. The idea of like following the thing that you want most as a kid sounds ridiculous, right? Because a lot of times, like, I want to be a doctor. It's like, shut up, Timmy. You're like not smart. Like there's a lot that goes into it. Yeah. I want to be a football player. Like, no, you're probably not. Like statistically, right? I want to be a rapper. Everyone raps. Yeah. So when you hear that, even in yourself, you're thinking like, nah, that's probably not a thing. So I gotta get a job. I remember telling my mom when I was about to graduate high school, I want to be a chef. And I did. I wanted to be a chef. No, you got to go to college. You got to CU. You go to college. All that time, I knew I wanted to make music. I wanted that to be my thing. But the thing that really sent it home was being homeless and having nothing and still knowing that I wanted that. Right, you understand so much more about who you are when you don't have anything, right?
Yeah.
And so for me to just be sleeping in my car and still being like, I want to write music, that was when it was like, yeah, this is it.
That's super interesting because both of y'all kind of like talked about like the things, having things, wanting things that are very important to you, and then not being able to get them.
Yeah.
And then having that like kind of fuel your next steps and it working out. Like how did like not being able to get that farm like lead you to like opening up the restaurant and being like, all right, I'm okay with doing this, or this is what I want to do?
Yeah. It's funny when I raised chickens. That's how I got through college, was raising chickens for George's. And
Wow.
spent all of my working life by myself. Like I was the entire crew. Like my grandfather owned the place, but I had taken over because he'd gotten to a position he couldn't work anymore. And a restaurant is you're never by yourself until 1 a.m. when you're mopping up.
Yeah.
Honestly, I want to write too. Like my big thing, I'm a storyteller, and someday I'd like to pin some stuff that goes somewhere. But the great thing about being a bartender is that, or a restaurateur, or waiter, whatever kind of position I happen to be in that day, is that you get a new audience like every 20 minutes. You can have a 3-minute routine and use it 19 times in one day. So by the time you go home, you got something perfected. You know where the punchline is, you know what works. And I like being on camera. I like talking into a microphone. I like entertaining people. And it's such a good way to do that.
That's so on point, right? Because listen to what's happening, right? I'm a rapper. I wanted to be a chef. You're a bartender.
Got a restaurant,
you want
right?
to be a writer. So there's that mix, right? So what happened too is I worked in the food industry for a good amount of time, and what you're saying is so on point. It's a show. You're doing a show every night, like the different tables, and it helped me. It helped me perform. Like I was using stuff that I learned being a waiter on stage. Like, so they're so similar too. It's interesting.
You learn your delivery times and how to read an audience.
Yep.
The two things go
It's
very
so true.
hand in hand.
Yeah.
Is there? It kind of seems like there's like some. Is there like some stand-up aspirations in the future?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if I could ever. I've thought about it.
Yeah.
Like there are places that do open mic stand up. Like I don't think I could come up with a routine that long. Like I can tell a story. I can talk.
Yeah.
Whether or not I can put enough punchlines and enough audience reaction in to fill in a whole set, I don't know. Like I can build a good story that will
harm in
Oh,
deliver.
you're scared. I think you're scared. Nah, you
there's
can
no
do that.
there's no harm in trying.
Nah, you could definitely do that.
Or-
I think you could do it.
well, thanks.
Cause I've kind of followed you for a little bit. I watched that show.
Rhythm and flow.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everyone calls it hustle and flow. It's different.
I should know what it's called. I was gonna leave it untitled. But where'd you kind of come up with the old man mantra? That was interesting to me. And
Thank you.
Kind of differentiated from like, a lot of people.
Old Man Saxon is just kind of the antithesis of what any rapper that's just like a microwave rapper is, right? Because you can be little this, young that, and you're kind of feeding into the immaturity of what rap is, right? So as Old Man Saxon, I'm only going to grow into my name. Little this, they're going to grow out of it, right? Little Romeo is just Romeo.
That's not going to fit for very long.
You have to age, right?
Yeah.
So Old Man Saxon comes from being able to like be in the rap game as long as I possibly want to without having to change, unless I want to, right? And it comes from, well, my friend called me one day just because I was complaining about how much traffic there was. He said, they should call you Old Man Saxon. I said, perfect. So that's where it came from. But also my dad, when he had me, he was 55 years old. He's gone now, but all my morals and like standards come from this old man, right? So that's the whole spiel of where it started. where it ended up going from like what people see on Rhythm and Flow is I started opening for, you open for artists, right? And people don't know who you are normally, right? They go, hey, come to the stage, Little Fetus. And Little Fetus comes out and he does his thing and he leaves. And they go, oh, that was Little Fetus. And for me, I decided, well, dang, I have to do something so that when people see me, they go, whoa, like, who was that? So I put on a suit.
Yeah.
Suit, tie, just fresh. And I tell jokes. And I act silly. Like, I act like someone who, like, you want to be entertained by, right? So that when I get off stage, people go, who's that dude in the suit, right? You may even know my name. You might not have to look me up, but you're like, who was that in the suit?
Yeah.
And so
that's a Google search.
Yeah, like even
dude
that
in the suit,
dude in the suit
kind of dressed like an old guy.
Open for Ghostface. Like something's gonna happen
Yeah.
where you'll be like, oh, okay. So that's where that comes from. Is just trying to find a way to entertain people more than normal rappers. The first concert I ever went to was Jedi Mind Tricks, great rappers, but I didn't know who they were. So I just kind of went in, and it was just them on stage walking back and forth. Put your hands in the air, and I was just like, I don't know what that means. Like it was terrible for me. So my whole thing from that one show, seeing Jedi Mind Tricks at the Goose in Boulder, was I can't ever do that. If you don't know who I am, you got to be able to enjoy the show.
Yeah.
If you never heard a lyric, you still got to be able to enjoy it. Yeah.
Intentionally differentiating yourself from people in the game and making sure you have an identity. I'm curious about Odd Soul's identity and how you guys try to differentiate yourselves from other restaurants, even other pizza spots in Northwest Arkansas.
So when we first opened, we were beer only.
Okay.
We were kind of did I say this earlier? We were kind of a retirement home for brewery employees. Like all of us involved at the very, very beginning, the customers as well, we had known through contacts at breweries. And all our menu rolls over all the time. So the beer that you came in and loved today, not going to be on next week when you come in. Something else will go on its place. We'll have some light beers, we'll have some IPAs, but it means that you can try everything. So we try to share the spotlight around as much as we can. Like we discovered, hey, we could have higher gravity beers and spirits if we have food. And so we got this little tabletop pizza oven, and we were doing frozen doughs, and people were like, hey, they do surprisingly good food for a bar, because we made our own sauce, and the bartender was also the pizza chef. So you pour a beer, run make a pizza, go pour another beer. And we moved slow enough at the time. We did solo business. One bartender could hack that for a day, and eventually we could make a better pizza more cost effectively than we can be doing these frozen ones. So we'd had a little arcade room in the back. Let's sacrifice the arcade. It pays 50 cents an hour really for, it's a lot of real estate to give up for those things. And we put in a couple of ovens, and we toss our own dough. And so everything's fresh. Frequently we'll run out of stuff. Don't come in on a Sunday if you're starving, because chances are we have run out of either wings or pizza or the pizza sauce even. That's kind of how we do our research. It turns out this sells well. We ran out of it 2 weeks in a row. We should really lean into that.
How'd you land on the name Odd Soul?
That was one of my manager's picks. He said, I've always wanted to have a bar called the Odd Soul. I just think that fits. And this is after they'd called me to be involved. I'm like, did you just call me because that name fits? Did you just need somebody weird to be on out front? The first 6 months, every shift I worked, I either wore a Hawaiian shirt or a kilt. Sometimes both. But you talk about needing to stick in somebody's mind. Yeah, I feel you.
Hell yeah. Safety net. That's the word I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
I did it. I figured it out. It's safety net. All right.
Are y'all at a place where you're doing it purely out of passion? And not that it ever wasn't, but it's just, I feel like that's something that everyone needs to evaluate sometimes.
I know exactly what you mean. So I think it's an interesting question because I am a father, right? I have 2 kids, 2 little girls, a wife, right? Anything that is just strictly out of passion for me, usually will hurt my family. Like, that's just what it is. So if I'm just doing like in any form, right? If I'm just going out of passion, right? Like I gotta take care of my kids. If I'm just making music out of passion, like that doesn't necessarily feed my family. So what I've started to do is I've gained so much love for music that I find passion in learning new things about it, right? So my whole thing right now is I'm taking like a sync workshop, right? Which is getting your songs on TV and trailers and stuff like that. And I'm learning how to make my own beats. And I'm learning how to do things that will make my kids get to college, right? My passion's for music. It is what it is. If I really wanted to, I would just make lo-fi drum and bass type hip hop and just freestyle for hours and hours on end. But yeah, I don't. But the good thing is like I love performing, and I love. I think I have a passion for performing, and that pays the bills. And I'm even out here just because of Black Fret. Good, amazing organization that has been had brought me out to Northwest Arkansas. So the idea of I'm passionate about performing, and then when you get people to fly you out and perform for people. I mean, it
seems like it's out of passion for your family too, which is that's pretty important.
That's real.
I think
that's real.
Yeah, we try to make like a mole sauce one day, a wing sauce. It's like, what's in mole? It's like, I don't know.
Like mole, like the Spanish?
Yeah. Like there's some cocoa and some peppers.
I don't know what's in it.
So we're on our smartphones. What do we got here in the kitchen? It's like, yeah, okay, we can try that. That scotch will work, right?
Wait, is it still on the menu?
No, it never made it.
Okay.
The one that we did really well with, we tried like a Thai peanut, but it's like, well, we can't. Like peanuts are a whole allergen kind of thing, so that idea went
But
away.
if someone has a peanut allergy, they shouldn't order Thai peanut.
Valid. It's just a matter of the threat of cross contamination.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Okay, I gotta ask, since you mentioned it earlier, are there any aspirations, any goals to use the creative side soon?
So in November
every
year, there's National Novel Writing Month. It's called NaNoWriMo. And you get 30 days to write 50,000 words. And it's supposed to be fiction. I did it back in '08. I kind of had some short stories that I strung together and kind of tried to make some plot lines. And never really got anywhere with it. And this year was coming up again. I thought, I haven't written in months or years. Like I really need to practice again. And I'm the sort of person, it's not uncommon, I have to have a deadline or something to fight against. And sometime in October, I thought, you know what, National Novel Writing Month comes up in 2 weeks. Like, I should just do it. And I just wrote Making Sense of Yesterday. And I thought, that's a good title for a book. So that's the working title of my
autobiography of a non-famous person. That's great. That's a good title.
Stick with that?
Both of them.
I love that.
I love both of them.